Hyde here at Gillette Stadium with Zach Cox and Kevin Duffy of MassLive.com here before the Patriots take on the Chargers in Week 8, final game before the bye week, and could be kind of a deceptively tough game for the Patriots. I don't think many people expected the Chargers to come here and compete, but they're on a roll right now. Their defense is looking pretty good. Got some pieces there on offense. I guess let's just start this off by asking, let's start off strong. Do you guys think the Patriots are going to win today?
I do, but I agree with you that it's going to be a tough game. I mean, this Chargers team's a team that's won 3 in a row after starting the season 4-0. And even going back to last season, even their losses are typically come in very close games. I mean, last year they went 5-11, but they lost 8 of their 11 games by 7 points or fewer. This year, 3 of their 4 losses, 3 points or fewer. So this is a team that never really gets blown out. And like you said, they got some pieces that we're going to talk about a little bit later, especially Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram down there. So I'm expecting a close game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the ultimate hedge here. I picked the Patriots, and I'm going to stick by that. But just before we hopped on, I told Doug, you know what, I got a weird feeling the Chargers are going to win. And I think the Chargers just pose a difficult matchup for them because they have 2 great edge rushers in Bosa and Ingram. And just watching the way they use those guys, they use them this year similar sometimes to how you saw last year, Clowney and Merciless. Like they'll put them on the same side together. They'll have one take out the guard and tackle and loop the other inside. They're pretty creative. In that way, getting after the passer. They have 2 good cornerbacks in Hayward and Trevor Williams, and they have they have an offense that hasn't really done much like points-wise, but you look at their skill position players, they have size across the board. Pats have struggled sometimes against tight ends. They have 2 pretty good tight ends. The question to me is whether they can run the ball or not, because I think both teams are going to try to run it, and right now Melvin Gordon has not really been too effective. They've had some trouble running the ball.
I don't know why this is. I feel like the Patriots are going to blow out the Chargers. I could wind up being wrong on this one. I feel like this is the game where the Patriots offense, everything kind of comes together. They start off strong, they finish strong, and I think the Chargers could put up some points on the Patriots. We'll get into why a little bit later, but I just have a feeling that the Patriots are going to win this one pretty big. But big news of the week was the fact that Dante Hightower is out for the season, underwent surgery on a torn pectoral muscle. So the Patriots have some options. They could try to fill that role from within. We'll kind of have to see what they do out here today. But if you guys were the Patriots, who would fill Dante Hightower's role? Would it be from within? Would it be in a trade? Would it be, I don't know, someone on the street? What are you guys feeling about this?
The most difficult thing about replacing Dante Hightower is that you really have to replace 2 positions,
right,
almost, because he's their best linebacker and he might even be their best edge rusher, their best pass rusher. I know Trey Flowers might have a case for that too, but he's easily their best all-around defensive player, I think. So taking him out, you really need to fill those 2 spots. I think you'll see in the meantime you'll see it filled within. I mean, I think David Harris could finally maybe play a somewhat significant role in this defense. Shea McClellan should be back when the Patriots return to action in Week 10. You have some guys like Cassius Marsh who could play more, Adam Butler. But I would be very surprised if they don't make at least some sort of transaction before the trade deadline, which is coming up in just a few days. The Patriots are an active team on the trade market regardless. They seem to bring in at least 1 or 2 defensive guys every year, and I think they kind of have to right now. I know you wrote earlier this week that the edge rusher is even more of a need now than linebacker. I think they're both needs, but I think I would agree with you there. So I would be very surprised if they didn't at least bring some sort of player in.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct in saying it's replacing 2 positions with Hightower. That's difficult, but I think they're okay in terms of like an off-the-line linebacker. They have David Harris, they have Landon Roberts. It's not that those guys are world beaters, but they're competent players. They can get by with both of them. The issue is pass rush, because they already didn't have a good pass rush to begin with, and now you lose your best pass rusher. So it's tough. I mean, I think they want to explore a trade, but it's got to be right for both teams. And you look at where the Pats have depth. I mean, do you want to trade away a draft pick for a pass rusher right now after you purge your draft picks last year? Maybe not. Do you want to try to flip a running back where you have a little extra depth for a pass rusher? Ideally, yes, but what team is going to try to trade a pass rusher for a running back? So it's got to work for both teams. I'm sure the Pats want to make a trade. It's just a matter of if they can find one that's right for them.
Yeah, the way that most of these trades work is the fact that if the Patriots aren't going to be giving up much, like they did last year for Kyle Van Noy, it's basically a player that the other team is thinking about releasing anyway, or thinking about parting with in some ways. If a team wants to keep a player and they think that a player is useful, then you're going to have to give up something to get something. And I'm not sure if the Patriots would really be willing to do that. At the same time, I was saying this week, the Patriots really went all in this offseason by acquiring Brandon Cooks and trading away draft picks for players like Dwayne Allen and Coney Ealy. That one didn't work out, but So at this point, I'm not sure if the Patriots are just going to be willing to sit back and say, like, well, we tried. Oh, well, the season's lost.
Yeah.
I think they will try to get something here. But I think the fact that Shea McClellan is coming back is interesting because he can do similar things to Dante Hightower. He can play inside linebacker. He can rush the passer. He's just not nearly as productive as Dante Hightower, really in either role, but especially as a pass rusher. Every year, Dante Hightower is really the Patriots' most productive pass rusher per snap, and you are not going to see that from Shea McClellan. He's just not that type of player. So while he can play the positions that Dante Hightower can, he can't do it at the same level. So I'm with you guys that I think pass rusher is the much bigger need here. The name that I keep throwing out there is Howley Kikaha from the Saints.
Yep.
I think that, it was floated out there that he might be available, but that might be more other team driven than the Saints driven. I'm not sure if the Saints are really looking to part with him, so that might be the situation where the Patriots would actually have to give up something to get something by acquiring him.
Yeah, and you look at a team like the Saints, I don't think people had particularly high expectations for them coming into the season, but they've been playing pretty well, and given how poorly the rest of the NFC South has played, if he's a player that they think can help them make the playoffs and even advance in the playoffs, they're not just going to give him up for nothing. And to go back to your point that you made a little while ago about going all in, because they went all in, they don't have much draft capital to trade away. I mean, they pretty much gutted they still have some draft picks, obviously, but they parted ways with a lot of pieces to bring in the players that they did this past offseason. So it might end up being, like you said, a player-for-player deal. It definitely kind of cuts their options down a little bit.
Yeah, I think ideally you want a player-for-player deal. I'm sure they'd love to. I mean, you have 4 backs. Like, I'm sure they'd love to if they could move Gillisley maybe, or Burkhead even, but it just seems kind of far-fetched. A couple names too. I was just looking at guys who are on expiring contracts, guys who have seen playing time decrease. Nate Orchard, a pass rusher for the Browns, ever since Myles Garrett came back, he's seen his playing time cut. So I believe he's on the last year of his contract. And there's a guy for the Chargers too,
Jeremiah Ocho.
Yeah. So he's also that's a team that kind of has an abundance of pass rushing talent. So he's a guy, former second-round pick in the last year of his contract. That fits the mold to me. That's the type of guy that usually is traded at this time. That's not ruling out a blockbuster trade. Like, we've always thrown around just talking like, is Malcolm Butler still a possibility? And the fact of the Patriots defense, they really invested a ton in the secondary. They put a lot of resources back there, and they didn't put much into the front seven financially. So there's kind of an imbalance there. So do you want to try to balance that out and roll with Gilmore and Batamosi, or Gilmore and Eric Rowe when he comes back, and move Butler for a player who can make an impact in the front seven?
Yeah, I think that the 2 names that are really kind of interesting out there on the Patriots who could be dealt is Malcolm Butler, just because of what you said. I think the fact that, Johnson Batamosi has stepped up the way that he has doesn't make Malcolm Butler expendable, but the fact that he is on the last year of his deal, the fact that it sounds like he's probably not going to be back next season, that's a player that you could actually get some value out of. I think that would definitely be an interesting one. And at running back, Rex Burkhead is the guy that I think could be moved. Just the fact that he does a lot of the same things as Dion Lewis. Dion Lewis looks like he's back to his 2015 level. The Patriots do have 4 running backs, 5 if you include Brandon Bolden. So to get in trouble at running back at this point, they would have to lose 2 guys. So I think that you could actually afford to shop one of them, whether that is Dion Lewis, whether it is Rex Burkhead. You mentioned Gillisley. James White won't be traded, but I think that they could move one of those 3 other guys just because of the depth that they do have at that position. And you don't want to get shallow at running back. Back in 2015, the Patriots proved that when they had to sign, Steven Jackson off the street.
Nobody wants another Steven
old
Jackson.
Steven Jackson, Brandon Bolden combo.
Joey Josefa had a 14 carry game in there somewhere.
Yeah, he had a pretty decent game.
Yeah, who was that
Titans.
against? It was against the Titans.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to get into signing fullbacks off your practice squad because no one wants to be in that situation. But Patriots do have enough depth there at this point. They've made it halfway through the season now. We'll see what happens in this game with all those backs being relatively healthy. If Burkhead can have a good game out here, that would really help his trade value as well, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if they would try to showcase him a little bit because he hasn't played this year. So
Right.
you really, in order to trade a player, he needs to prove that he's worth something. So that will be interesting. And then just the final point on all that, running back, if you look at teams that would trade for a running back, there really aren't many.
Right.
You need a contending team who needs an upgrade at that position. The one team that jumps out to me is the Detroit Lions, who the Patriots have had a lot of dealings with. The Kyle Van Noy trade from last year, which I always thought was a colossal ripoff for another time. But yeah, that's one team that has a pretty poor running game, but still is a playoff contender. So possibly if they have a guy in the front seven that they would want to trade, that might work.
Definitely good relationship between those two teams too. Like you said, I mean, Dante Badamosi came from Detroit too. So it's definitely a team that Bill Belichick likes dealing with Bob Quinn over there.
The way that Badamosi and Van Noy have played the last 2 games, though, maybe the Lions would be a little bit hesitant to trade with the Patriots because they're making gold out of I don't know, bronze or iron or something. That's not a phrase. I just made that up. But let's get into this Chargers game. You guys did mention it. They have 2 very dangerous pass rushers in Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa, and that will be pretty difficult, I think, for the Patriots to defend because Bill Belichick said this week that these aren't guys that you can just redirect behind Tom Brady because they either will cut back inside, they'll pull a move an offensive lineman, maybe they'll run back. So this is a game where I think it will be extremely important for Tom Brady to get the ball out quickly, and I think that he'll probably need Danny Amendola to do that. Amendola did tell us this week that he's good to go for this game. That's changed a little bit, I guess. As of this morning, there was a report out there that he'll be a game-time decision, but you'd think that even if he's close, you kind of want to force him to play this game because they do have the bye week coming up, and they do need someone to get open quickly against this Chargers secondary.
I agree, and especially with Marcus Cannon being questionable for this game with an ankle injury, we haven't really heard any indication either way whether he'll play or if he won't. But even if he does play, you got to imagine he won't be quite at 100% if he's been on that injury report. And having a starting tackle that's less than 100% against either Bosa or Ingram is a very difficult proposition. I mean, it's hard enough to block teams that have Von Miller or one of these top level edge rushers. The Chargers have 2. I mean, Ingram's 4th in the league in sacks, Bosa's 6th, I believe. They're easily the best pass rushing duo, I guess you could say, that's in the NFL right now. And yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest key to this game is keeping those guys away from Tom Brady. And the Patriots offensive line has looked a lot better in the last couple of weeks since that disaster down in Tampa where Tom Brady almost got his back broken a couple times. But they're going to have to step up today. It's going to be a big test for them.
Yeah, I think the Patriots continue to lean on the running game pretty heavily. I think we're seeing a slow transition from the first 4 weeks of the season. The pace they were playing at was not sustainable to me. Brady was just taking too many hits. They were throwing the ball deep way too much. And that was leading to some of the hits he was taking. They weren't trying to establish the run, and the score kind of dictated that in some of those games. They got behind against Kansas City, against Carolina. But over the last 4 weeks, you've seen them become more of a balanced offense. Almost, last game, I believe they ran the ball more than they threw it. So almost like a run-first offense, and they've had success. Dion Lewis is averaging better than 5 yards a carry over the past 4 games. Gillisley has actually been pretty decent, too. He's just failed to – he had that fumble against the Jets. He's failed to convert in a few short yardage situations, but on 1st and 10 carries, he's giving them 4 or 5 yards, putting them in pretty favorable situations. So if there's one weakness to the Chargers defense, it's the running game. They're last in the league in rushing yards allowed. They're second to last in yards per carry. So I think to negate the pass rush and keep Brady clean, you're going to really try to establish the run early and just keep with it.
Yeah, another weakness on the Chargers is just their linebacking core. So I think that, regardless of who is in there for the Patriots, I think that you might be able to get some receivers open in the middle, whether that is Amendola if he's healthy or Rob Gronkowski, James White, someone else. Looking at the Chargers offense real quickly, Stephon Gilmore is questionable to play in this game. And it sounds like he's truly questionable. It sounds like he did not know as of Friday whether he was going to play in this game or not. So I think this is a game that you really want him, though, because he's a guy that you could match up on Keenan Allen. The Patriots have shown a willingness to use Gilmore in the slot before, and that's a lot of the time when the Chargers go to 3 receivers, they'll put Keenan Allen in the slot. So the Chargers have 2 big wide receivers in Tyrell Williams and Keenan Allen. They also have Mike Williams as another big option. So you need as many big wide receivers as you can get in this game. I don't think it's a game that you really want Patrick Chung covering the slot because that would mean covering Keenan Allen, and that's a pretty dangerous matchup. So ideally, I think you would like to see Stephon Gilmore on Keenan Allen. You'd see Johnson Badamosi on Tyrell Williams, and you'd see Malcolm Butler on Travis Benjamin. But I guess if Gilmore can't play in this game, how do you think that the Patriots would have to match up there?
It's probably going to be similar to what they had the last 2 weeks when Gilmore was out and Johnson Badamosi started opposite Malcolm Butler. They really kind of mixed it up. I mean, everybody they weren't following anybody, weren't shadowing anybody the whole game. They kind of threw a combination of coverages. I think you'll see a lot of safety help over the top, especially on Keenan Allen in this game, especially if Stephon Gilmore isn't out there, and probably even if Stephon Gilmore is out there, because even though he did look pretty good against the Bucs in his last game out, really struggled earlier in the season. So not really sure what how much you can expect from him today. I'm actually very curious to see how he performs if he is in fact out here.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, the Chargers do throw the ball a lot to their running backs, and that kind of puts the Patriots linebackers in a bind, so to speak. And not that I don't think Gordon's been great for San Diego this year, or excuse me, for Los Angeles.
Hold a Bill Belichick
It's ridiculous. Yeah, I know.
I haven't done that this week, by the way, and I'm very impressed with myself. I'll do it today at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The day is young.
I almost made it through. Anyway, so they're going to try to dump the ball off to Gordon a good amount. Going to try to get him and Austin Eckler, the backup, in space against the Patriots linebackers. So that's another matchup to watch. The thing about the Chargers that jumps out is just their size across the board. It's just difficult to counter. I mean, you have a 6'2" Keenan Allen, 6'4" Mike Williams, 6'4" Tyrell Williams, 2 6'6" tight ends. Rivers has got, pretty big windows to throw to because those guys just have large catch radiuses. So the Chargers aren't lighting it up offensively, but I still would consider them a fairly difficult matchup because they do have talent at the skill positions.
Yeah, I think one interesting thing about the running backs, they do dump it off to them a lot, but Phillip Rivers actually has not attempted a deep pass to Melvin Gordon all season, which I think that when I was looking at this matchup, I was thinking, okay, does Patrick Chung take on the running back? Does a linebacker take on the running back? How do the Patriots deal with this? And I think that until the Chargers prove that they are willing to throw deep to Melvin Gordon, you can put a linebacker on him to try to contain him at first. Maybe they have to switch things up at halftime or at some point during this game, but I think that the tight ends are so important to cover that you need Patrick Chung, you need Devin McCourty against those guys, and then you might just have to use a linebacker against a running back in this game. But any final thoughts from you guys before this matchup? It's always a tough question.
Yeah,
I know.
I guess one final thing on the Chargers offense against the Patriots defense. The Patriots are down 2 of their best run defenders in this game with Dante Hightower not playing.
True.
Malcolm Brown also out, which I think is kind of an underrated
Definitely
absence
underrated.
because he has been one of their better defensive players this year. He's really played well of late. And Melvin Gordon has been kind of disappointing so far this season. I think this could be a game where he kind of gets it going a little bit if the Patriots can't shut him down in there.
Yeah, along the same lines, weird stat on Melvin Gordon. So he's averaging, I think, 3.4 yards a carry, but he's actually third in the league in runs of 10-plus yards. So he's breaking off, like last week against Denver, he had a 21-yard run. Outside of that, he had 18 carries for 18 yards. So he's breaking off some significant gains, but not giving them much on other downs, which putting them in second and long, third and long. So I think that the running game is really going to determine who wins this game from both sides. I think both teams are going to try to establish the run. And I like this game to be played in the low to mid-20s. I don't think we're in for a shootout here. I think both teams want to control time of possession for different reasons. Patriots want to negate that pass rush of the Chargers. And the Chargers, I think that's really their best approach because of what Zach said. No Malcolm Brown, no Hightower. This should be a run defense that's kind of susceptible.
Yeah, I think that Alan Branch definitely needs to have a good game in this one. He kind of implied to us Friday he's feeling a little bit lighter. So it could be a good game for him. He actually played well in Week 7, so we'll see how he does in this game after he was benched midway through the season, but like I said, playing better as of late. Make sure to follow all of us on Twitter. I'm at Doug Kide, Zach Cox Nesson, that's with a K. Kevin R. Duffy, is that correct?
Got it.
And go to MassLive.com to follow Kevin's stuff. Go to Nesson.com/Patriots for all of your Nesson.com Patriots coverage. That'll do it for us before the Patriots take on the Chargers here at Gillette Stadium at 1 p.m.